It was the year 2017, and I, Mark, was 18 years old, living with my grandma, the only family I had left. She'd always been my rock, especially after I lost my parents in a tragic accident years ago. We lived in a small, quiet town where the streets emptied out as soon as the sun dipped below the horizon. My grandma always told me to stay indoors after dark, but that evening I had no choice. Grandma wasn't feeling well, coughing and shivering under a pile of blankets. She asked me to grab some medicine and a few snacks from the Dollar Tree down the street. "Be careful, Mark," she said, her voice weak. I nodded, reassuring her I'd be back soon. The night air was cold as I stepped out, the faint hum of streetlights and rustling leaves the only sounds around. I walked quickly to the Dollar Tree, the bright sign glowing like a beacon in the empty street. I thought it would be a simple trip, but I was wrong. That night would change everything. Inside the store, it was unusually quiet. The aisles stretched out in silence, the shelves lined with colorful boxes and bags. I grabbed a basket and started collecting items for Grandma, medicine, some crackers, and juice. As I wandered through the snack aisle, I saw a bag of chips on the top shelf. It was just out of my reach. Suddenly, a voice came from behind me. "Need help with that?" I turned to see an old man standing there. He had a wrinkled face, a scruffy beard, and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Sure. Thanks," I said, stepping aside. He grabbed the chips and handed them to me. "So, you live nearby?" he asked casually. I nodded, feeling a little uncomfortable. "With my grandma," I replied. "Ah, nice," he said, but his tone felt strange, almost too friendly. "You shouldn't be out this late, especially alone. The world's not as safe as it used to be." I laughed nervously. "It's just a quick trip." "Well, if you ever need someone to help you," he said, leaning in slightly, "you can always come to me. I've got a big house, plenty of space for you and anyone else." His grin widened and a chill ran down my spine. I mumbled a quick thank you and hurried to another aisle, hoping to shake him off. But every aisle I went to, he followed, asking questions about my life and family. The old man's questions became more personal. "What does your grandma do all day? Does she stay home alone?" he asked. I avoided answering directly, but his persistence was unnerving. "She's fine," I said, trying to sound confident. Then, out of nowhere, he said, "Why don't you come live with me? I can take care of you better than anyone else." "No thanks," I said firmly, my hands gripping the basket tightly. "Come on," he pressed, his tone turning darker. "You'll be safe with me. Your grandma's old. What if something happens to her?" My stomach churned. "I need to go," I said, walking toward the checkout. He didn't stop me this time, but I could feel his eyes on my back. After paying, I stepped outside, the parking lot deserted. I hurried to my car, but as I reached it, I felt a sudden pressure in my bladder. There was no way I could make it home without using the restroom. Reluctantly, I went to the small public restroom at the edge of the parking lot. The light inside flickered, casting strange shadows on the walls. I went into the first stall and tried to finish quickly. That's when I heard the door creak open, followed by slow, deliberate footsteps. My heart pounded as the footsteps stopped outside my stall. I held my breath, staring at the gap beneath the door. A shadow moved there, but no one spoke. Suddenly, I heard breathing. It wasn't coming from the door, it was above me. I looked up, and there he was. The old man was standing on the toilet in the next stall, peering over the partition. His wide, unblinking eyes stared down at me. "Come with me," he whispered. "I'll take good care of you." "Leave me alone," I shouted, pushing the door open. I ran out, but he followed, laughing in a way that made my blood run cold. "You can't run forever, Mark," he yelled. I sprinted to my car, fumbling with the keys. He was right behind me, his footsteps growing louder. I managed to unlock the door and slam it shut just as he reached for the handle. His hand got caught in the door, and I heard a sickening crack. He screamed, but I didn't wait to see what happened next. I started the car and sped off, my heart racing. When I got home, I told my grandma everything. She called the police, but they never found the man. A week later, I read about a missing boy in the local paper. He'd last been seen at the same Dollar Tree. I'll never forget that man's eyes or the way he whispered, "This isn't over." To this day, I avoid the Dollar Tree after dark, and I always look over my shoulder just in case he's still out there. It was a calm Saturday morning, and I, Austin, had just started my shift at the Dollar Tree near my neighborhood. It was the kind of day where nothing exciting usually happened. The aisles were quiet, the air smelled faintly of cleaning supplies, and the only sounds were the soft hum of the air conditioning and the occasional squeak of shopping carts. My job that day was to keep things tidy and help customers when they needed it. Around noon, the store got a little busier, with moms buying snacks, kids tugging at their parents for toys, and older folks looking for bargains. I helped an elderly woman find some decorations for her granddaughter's birthday, then took over as cashier for an hour when it got crowded. After the rush settled, my manager asked me to restock the candy aisle. I was moving boxes and putting chocolates in place when I noticed someone watching me. It was a tall man with messy hair, wearing a black hoodie and torn jeans. He stood at the end of the aisle, not moving, just staring. I thought he might be looking for something, so I smiled and asked, "Can I help you find anything?" He didn't answer. He just tilted his head slightly, his dark eyes fixed on me. Feeling uneasy, I went back to my task, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still watching me. When I looked up again, he was gone. I told myself I was overthinking it. Maybe he was just a quiet guy, shy about asking for help. Still, I couldn't help but glance over my shoulder as I worked. The rest of the afternoon passed without incident, but the image of that man lingered in my mind. Around 4 p.m., I was organizing a shelf near the back of the store when I felt someone behind me. I turned quickly and saw the same man standing there, uncomfortably close. This time he spoke. "You're good at your job," he said, his voice low and strange. "Do you like it here?" I stepped back, forcing a polite smile. Yeah, it's fine. Can I help you with something?" He didn't answer my question. Instead, he started asking odd things, like how long I'd been working there and if I worked alone. His questions made my skin crawl. I tried to end the conversation by saying I needed to get back to work, but when I turned to leave, he followed me. "Hey," he said, "you seem nice. Don't you want to talk?" I stopped and looked at him, trying to stay calm. "Sir, if you need help, you can ask the front desk. I have a lot to do." He smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "I'll see you later, Austin." My heart skipped a beat. I hadn't told him my name. How did he know it? Before I could say anything, he turned and walked away, disappearing around the corner. The rest of the day, I felt like I was being watched. Every time I turned a corner, I expected to see him, but he was nowhere to be found. I told one of my coworkers, Mia, about the man and how uncomfortable he'd made me feel. She offered to stick around nearby while I worked. Evening came, and the store grew quieter. Around 7:30, I was assigned to stock some items in the storage room. As I worked, I heard a strange noise, a faint rustling, like something shifting inside a box. I froze, listening. "Hello?" I called out, my voice trembling slightly. There was no reply, just the sound of something sliding. Slowly, I walked toward the sound, gripping a broom for protection. I pushed aside a few boxes and nearly screamed when the man's face appeared from behind them. He had been hiding there the whole time. "What are you doing back here?" I demanded, my voice shaky but loud. He grinned, his teeth yellow in the dim light. "I told you I'd see you later." I backed away, holding the broom in front of me like a shield. "You need to leave now or I'll call the police." The man stepped closer, his grin fading. "Don't be scared," he said, but his tone was anything but reassuring. "I just want to talk." At that moment, Mia entered the storage room, calling my name. When she saw the man, she froze. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice sharp. "He's been hiding back here," I said quickly. "We need to get him out of the store." Mia didn't hesitate. She grabbed her phone and said, "I'm calling the cops." The man's eyes widened, and he lunged toward her. Without thinking, I swung the broom at him, hitting him in the arm. He stumbled back, cursing. Mia and I yelled at him to leave, and finally he bolted out of the storage room and ran out the back door. After locking the doors, we called the police and reported everything. They arrived quickly, took our statements, and promised to patrol the area more often. They said they'd look for the man, but they couldn't guarantee he'd be caught. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the house made me jump. The man's face haunted me. His grin burned into my memory. I kept wondering what would have happened if Mia hadn't shown up when she did. The next day, the store manager installed new security cameras, and we all got a safety briefing. I've worked at Dollar Tree ever since, but I've never seen that man again. Still, every time I walk into the storage room, I can't help but glance at the boxes, half expecting him to jump out. That experience taught me to always trust my instincts and to never underestimate the importance of safety. It's a story I'll never forget, and I hope I never have to live through anything like it again. My name is James, and I work part-time at Dollar Tree after school. I'm 17, and most of my evenings are spent restocking shelves or helping customers. It was a quiet Thursday evening when I first noticed him. He was tall and thin, wearing a long black coat even though it wasn't cold outside. His face was pale and his eyes seemed too wide, like he never blinked. He walked into the store while I was organizing items in the candy aisle. He didn't pick anything up. He just wandered around, stopping occasionally to stare at the shelves or at me. It felt like he was watching me, though I tried to convince myself I was imagining it. Later, as I rang up the last few customers, I noticed him again. He wasn't in line, just standing near the door looking at me. When the store closed and I left to walk home, I felt uneasy. The quiet streets seemed darker that night, and every step I took echoed loudly. Turning around, I saw a shadow move behind me. Was it him? I didn't wait to find out. I hurried home, locking the door behind me. 2 days later, I was back at Dollar Tree for my usual shift. I had almost forgotten about the strange man. The store was busier than usual, and I got lost in the routine of helping customers. But just as the evening rush began to slow, I saw him again. He was leaning against the wall near the back of the store, his expression unreadable. This time, he wasn't alone. A little girl about 6 years old stood beside him, holding his hand. Her face was blank, and she didn't say a word. "Can I help you with something?" I asked, trying to sound polite but feeling nervous. He tilted his head slightly, his eyes never leaving mine. "No," he said in a low voice that sent shivers down my spine. The girl said nothing. He turned and walked out, leaving me feeling cold and uneasy. Something about them was wrong. So very wrong. That night I left the store late after staying to clean up. The streets were empty, and the streetlights flickered. As I walked, I heard the faint sound of footsteps behind me. I turned, and there he was, the man in the black coat. He was standing in the middle of the road staring at me. My heart raced. I quickened my pace, hoping to lose him, but every time I glanced back, he was closer. His steps were slow but steady, as if he knew I couldn't escape. Panicked, I ducked into a neighbor's yard and ran through the shadows of their trees. I could hear him, the crunch of leaves under his feet. I reached my house and slammed the door shut, locking it. I peeked out the window, but he was gone. The next day at work, I told my coworker Tori about the man. Tori was older and had been working at Dollar Tree for years. She listened quietly, her face growing serious. "That sounds like Caleb," she said. "Who's Caleb?" I asked, confused. Well, he used to hang around here a lot. People say he's trouble. He knows things about people, creeps them out. If he's following you, James, you need to be careful." I didn't know what to say. Who was this man? And why was he interested in me? Tori promised to keep an eye out for him, but it didn't make me feel much better. A few nights later, as I was leaving work, I saw his car parked outside. My heart sank. I decided not to walk home this time. Instead, I hopped on my bike and pedaled as fast as I could, but the car followed me. Its headlights stayed close behind, and I could feel his gaze even though I couldn't see him. I swerved through side streets trying to lose him, but he was relentless. Finally, I made it to the police station. I jumped off my bike and ran inside, shouting for help. The car stopped outside for a moment, then sped off into the night. The officers took my statement, and I felt a small sense of relief knowing I was safe for now. A few days later, Tori told me the man had been arrested. Apparently, he was wanted for something serious. I never saw him again, but I still get nervous walking home at night. Some shadows feel darker, and some footsteps sound louder. My name is Hadley, and I was just a regular kid who loved going to Dollar Tree. There was something fun about the aisles stacked with colorful things that didn't cost much. One Saturday evening, my mom asked me to grab a few things from the store while she waited in the car. It was getting dark and the streetlights had just flickered on. The store was quiet when I walked in. There were only a few shoppers, and the cashier was busy unpacking boxes behind the counter. I wandered through the aisles, picking up snacks and a few supplies for school. That's when I saw it. On a shelf between the toys and picture frames was a small, dusty mirror. Its frame looked old and had strange carvings that I couldn't quite make out. When I picked it up, my reflection seemed off. I tilted my head, and my reflection didn't move at the same time. It felt like the mirror was watching me. I quickly put it back, but as I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or I tried to forget about the mirror as I moved to the snack aisle. Grabbing some chips and candy, I told myself I was just imagining things. But then I felt it, a cold breeze on the back of my neck. Turning around, I saw nothing at first. Then, at the end of the aisle, I noticed a shadow. It didn't look like it belonged to anything nearby. It was tall, thin, and seemed to stretch toward me. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. No one answered. I slowly backed away, but the shadow seemed to move closer. I rushed to another aisle, pretending to look at a shelf of notebooks, hoping to shake off the strange feeling. Suddenly, I felt like someone was standing right behind me. I turned quickly, but the aisle was empty. My hands shook as I stuffed the candy and chips into my basket and headed toward the checkout. I just wanted to get out of there. When I reached the front of the store, the cashier was gone. The counter was empty and the door I'd come through was locked. "Hello? Is anyone here?" I called out again, louder this time. The store felt different now. The aisles seemed longer, stretching endlessly into the darkness. I started walking, hoping to find someone, anyone. But the further I went, the more the shelves began to twist and bend. The lights above flickered, casting strange shapes on the floor. I turned a corner and froze. The mirror from before was sitting in the middle of the aisle, leaning against a stack of boxes. But this time, the reflection wasn't mine. It was the shadow. The shadow's hand moved, reaching out as if it wanted to pull me inside. I screamed and knocked the mirror over, shattering it into pieces. But instead of calming down, the air around me grew heavier, and I heard whispers. Panicking, I ran through the aisles, but no matter which direction I turned, I kept ending up back where I started. The store had become a maze. The shadow was everywhere now, its long, dark arms creeping along the walls and floors. "Hadley," a voice whispered. It sounded like it was coming from all around me. "Stay with us." "I don't want to stay. Let me out," I shouted, tears streaming down my face. I remembered the mirror and thought about what might happen if I used one of the larger pieces to face the shadow. Maybe it was afraid of its own reflection. I ran back to the broken glass, grabbed a sharp piece, and held it out in front of me. The shadow hesitated, its dark form trembling. The whispers grew louder, almost like they were screaming now. I took a deep breath and shouted, "Leave me alone!" The shadow lunged toward me, but I held the mirror shard up higher. Its edges glinted in the flickering light. The shadow stopped and the room seemed to shudder. Pieces of glass around me began to glow faintly. "No," the voice growled, deeper and angrier than before. The shadow tried to pull back, but it was too late. The glowing shards formed a circle around it, trapping it in one spot. The store began to shift back to normal. The aisles straightened, the lights stopped flickering, and the locked door creaked open. I dropped the shard and ran as fast as I could, bursting out into the cool night air. My mom was still in the car, scrolling through her phone. "What took you so long?" she asked. I didn't tell her what happened, but when I looked back at the store, the windows were dark, and the sign flickered weakly. I've never gone back to that Dollar Tree, and I never will. My name is Hudson, and I've worked at Dollar Tree for about 2 years now. It's a quiet place most of the time, and I've gotten used to the same routine: unpacking boxes, restocking shelves, and dealing with the occasional rush of customers. But one night, something happened that I can't explain. It was late in the evening, close to closing time. The store was empty, and I was in the seasonal aisle organizing some leftover Halloween decorations. That's when I noticed it, an old shopping cart sitting in the middle of the aisle. At first, I thought another employee had left it there. But when I looked closer, I saw that it was full of random things. Candles, a broken doll, a bundle of dried flowers, and a small box covered in dirt. It felt out of place, almost like someone had carefully arranged it for a reason. I called out, "Hello? Is anyone here?" But the store was silent. Shaking my head, I pushed the cart toward the stockroom, figuring I'd deal with it later. Little did I know that cart was just the beginning. The next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about the cart. It felt like it didn't belong in the store, and it gave me a strange feeling I couldn't shake. Before starting my shift, I decided to check the security footage from the previous night. I rewound the tape to around the time I found the cart. My heart skipped a beat as I saw something strange. A woman had appeared in the seasonal aisle. She was tall and thin, wearing a long, dark coat that dragged along the floor. Her movements were slow and deliberate as she placed the items into the cart, one by one. Then, just as suddenly as she had appeared, she was gone. 1 second she was there, and the next, the cart was sitting alone in the aisle. I rewound the footage again, trying to figure out where she went, but it was like she had vanished into thin air. "What in the world?" I whispered, feeling a chill run down my spine. I decided not to tell anyone, yet. Maybe there was a simple explanation, but deep down, I knew something wasn't right. That night, I stayed late to close the store. As I walked through the aisles one last time, I froze. The cart was back, sitting in the exact same spot I had found it before. This time, it looked different. The dirt-covered box had been opened, and inside was an old photograph of a family. The picture was faded, but I could make out a man, a woman, and 2 kids standing in front of a small house. There was something off about their faces. They looked wrong. I picked up the photo, my hands trembling. As I stared at it, I heard a soft whisper. It was faint at first, but it grew louder, like someone was standing right behind me. "Hudson!" I spun around, but no one was there. The store was empty, just like before. Dropping the photo, I backed away from the cart. The whispers stopped, but the feeling of being watched didn't go away. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the cart and the photo. By the time my next shift rolled around, I was exhausted but determined to figure out what was going on. As I stocked shelves, strange things started happening. Lights flickered overhead, and items fell off the shelves without anyone touching them. I heard footsteps in empty aisles and soft laughter coming from nowhere. Finally, I decided to confront the cart. It was still sitting in the seasonal aisle, untouched since the night before. "What do you want from me?" I shouted, my voice echoing through the empty store. The whispers returned, louder this time. They filled my ears, words I couldn't understand. The cart's wheels creaked as it started to move on its own, rolling slowly toward me. I stumbled back, tripping over a box. The whispers turned into a single voice. "Help us." I didn't know what to do, but I knew I couldn't ignore the cart any longer. Grabbing the photo, I studied it closely. That's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before: a small graveyard in the background. The dirt-covered box in the cart suddenly made sense. I realized the items in the cart weren't random. They belonged to the family in the photo. Somehow they were trapped, and the cart was their way of reaching out. I took the box outside, my heart racing. In the photo, the graveyard was next to a tree. I walked behind the store where an old oak tree stood. There, I found a patch of disturbed earth. Using my hands, I dug until I found a wooden box. I placed the items from the cart inside and buried it again. The air felt lighter, and the whispers stopped. When I went back inside, the cart was gone. The store was quiet, and for the first time in days, I felt at peace. I still work at Dollar Tree, but I'll never forget that night. It was a lesson I'll carry with me forever. Some things are better left alone.